Boa tarde a todos,
Olá.
bem-vindos.
Olá.
Boas tardes. Boa tarde a todos.
Boa tarde, boa tarde.
Olá, Paula. Bem-vinda.
Olá, Paulinho.
Tudo bem? Jara, hi. How are you doing?
Hello. Good to talk
Hello,
to you.
welcome.
I'm good, thank you.
Estão todos a ouvir bem?
Perfeitamente.
Sim.
Listening, ok? Yara, it's okay?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
5 minutes early.
Já aqui estamos quase todos uns minutinhos mais cedo.
Uns pouquinhos ainda. Vamos esperar mais.
Vou fazer aqui a gravação, portanto, a gravação fica então depois disponível, basta depois então fazerem esse pedido. Eu comecei...
Rita,
Sim?
will you wait 3 more minutes? Because it's just 2 minutes after the time here. So, if we give at least 3 more minutes before starting.
Ok. Depois eu vou colocar até aqui no chat, a recordar-vos então aqui o endereço de e-mail para onde podem fazer então o pedido. Então aqui o espaço.
Até fica mais nova. Carolina,
Sim.
só porque está assim, olha aqui.
Parece-me que então poderemos dar aqui início ao nosso encontro e à nossa conversa. Obrigada a todos pela vossa presença. Good afternoon, Jara. Welcome. Thank you very much to accept our invite and to be with us. I just talk a little bit in Portuguese in the beginning, just to present you, and then the time it's all for you. Gostaria de agradecer também aqui à PAVT por ter divulgado aqui também este nosso encontro. Pronto, e um agradecimento aqui muito especial, sei que esta altura é particularmente atarefada e portanto tem também aqui muito trabalho em mãos e portanto sei que este vosso tempo é precioso e portanto espero que também que seja bastante útil e proveitoso este tempo aqui connosco e aqui com a nossa convidada, a Jara. Jara é alemã, vive em Berlim, é coordenadora da associação sem fins lucrativos Roundtable Human Rights in Tourism, com sede em Berlim. É uma associação que se dedica, portanto, aqui a todas estas temáticas relacionadas com os direitos humanos e tem também uma vasta experiência com esta temática na área do turismo. Ela é licenciada em Estudos Culturais e em Gestão de Turismo Sustentável. Trabalhou para uma empresa e fez consultoria em desenvolvimento sustentável para um operador turístico, para vários operadores turísticos, especialmente dedicada também a desenvolver um projeto em Madagascar. Possui uma profunda experiência no domínio do turismo sustentável e do desenvolvimento, e sendo também este um ponto que acaba por ser integrado aqui também neste processo de certificação da Travel Life e da Sustur, em que efetivamente questões como portanto, os direitos humanos, a não discriminação, portanto uma série de questões que estão relacionadas aqui com os direitos humanos, entendemos que seria pertinente também termos aqui a experiência e ouvir aqui a voz de uma especialista como a Jara para nos trazer também aqui a sua experiência e os seus conhecimentos sobre este domínio. Eu vou então voltar aqui a falar with you, Jara. Now I give to you all the rights to share your presentation with us. Thank you very much to be with us. And then your presentation is all yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the invite. Welcome everyone, and greetings from Berlin to Portugal. I have not understood my presentation of Rita, but I think it was all right. So I'm trying to share my screen. To let you see my presentation. I hope it's working. Okay.
Yes, it is.
So yeah, I will talk about human rights in tourism today with you, and bringing in some examples, and I hope for a good discussion also with you. And if there are any questions, please let me know. I can try to answer them while presenting or afterwards. I'm quite flexible, I think. So for the start, I would like to briefly introduce the Roundtable Human Rights in Tourism, what we are doing and what we are. The Roundtable is a multi-stakeholder initiative founded in 2012. So this means we are a non-profit organization, and we are a sector dialogue on human rights in tourism. Everything that we do is based on the UN guiding principles on business and human rights. And we try to be an exchange network to support businesses on their way to human rights due diligence and on their way to sustainable tourism. We provide joint projects and support and tools for our members. As said, it's the initiative started in 2012 after the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights were taken in place in 2011. And there were some tourism companies in Germany actually and in Switzerland and Austria who said that they wanted to discuss further on how to implement these UN Guiding Principles into their operations. So this is how the Roundtable was founded initially. And it's open to everyone from the tourism industry who identify with our principles and who sign a commitment, which we have on the website, that says that you want to act according to the UN Guiding Principles. But it's not like we're not a certification, we're just a network, an organization to bring together different stakeholders in tourism to discuss on human rights issues and how to collaborate with regard to human rights issues, what is needed to learn from each other and to start a learning process. And at the moment, we are 34 members from 6 European countries. There are like tour operators, but we also have the 5 national tourism associations from different countries. We have different NGOs working in the field of sustainable tourism and or human rights. We have several institutions like vocational training schools, universities, ITB Berlin as like a biggest trade show in tourism. And this is all about exchange, about learning from each other, discussing different topics, needs, demands, and we're trying to develop tools, online tools, and I will talk about this later. And this is just how the Roundtable works and what we're doing. So if you're interested in more details about a membership or want to get in contact with us, just write me afterwards. We're very happy. We're very open also to guests who are interested in our work to see how we are working and what we're doing. So this is a hearty invite to connect with us if you're interested in learning more about what we do. Human rights in tourism, why is it so important? And for the basis of everything, tourism is a people's business, and it depends first and foremost on the people working in the tourism industry. It's very service-based. You all know it because you work in tourism, so it's all about the people. And this makes it so clear actually that every tourism business has the responsibility and the need to respect human rights in the value chain. And also the value chain in tourism is very small scale, it's very international most of the time. You have a lot of suppliers, you have a lot of people, cleaners, tour guides, street vendors, drivers who live in the destination, and they are all part of the tourism product. So it's not something that you could hide or that you can leave out when thinking about your supply chain. It's the basis for it. And this, it's so crucial to think about this when offering tourism products, when designing tourism products, when developing tourism in destinations, that it's a people's business, a people's sector. And this is also the basis of everything that you do. So what we always start with is to think about, do you know the risks on people in your value chain along your tourism product? And I mean, every tourism activity has an impact, and these are positive impacts, but these can also be negative impacts. And this is very dependent on how a company operates. And there are some topics, of course, where a tour operator has a big impact and a big leverage and can change something. And then there are other topics that are not in the power of one tour operator to change anything. But in the end, there are a lot of human rights risks also in the tourism value chain. And it's not to scare anyone to show all these topics now, but that's a fact, that because tourism is so service-based and dependent on so many people in the destination, there are also a lot of risks that can appear when offering tourism. And if you're not aware of these risks as a tour operator, and if you're not trying to tackle these risks or think about how to create a product that takes care of these risks, then it actually can also harm your business in the end. Because if, for example, you're working with a company with driving personnel that is not allowed to take any breaks, or has to do 3 jobs at a time to survive because they are paid so less or little, then it's a security issue in the end, also for your customers, for example. And there are a lot of issues that are interrelated also, and the risks are interrelated. So if one right is harmed, a lot of times others are harmed as well. And this also means in the other way around, that if you're tackling one risk, for example, trying to pay your staff well, then other risks are also lowered. Because, for example, they have not to take other jobs at the same time. And I will talk about this more and give you some examples. For example, if you're talking about the rights to decent work, working conditions is a big issue in tourism, and it's not only an issue in this global south or in any destination, but it's also an issue in Western countries. It's also an issue in Germany. It's an issue in Portugal. So it's everywhere, and you just have to see in your operations, in your value chain, do I have any impact on it? Am I operating in a way that workers' rights are respected? How can I adapt maybe some procedures or contracts? And yeah, so it's just an issue that is there for all tour operators operating in tourism. And I researched some cases that were like, these are news articles that show that it's there and it's present. These are quite recent articles, so it's happening everywhere. So there's an article about Great Britain, in Scotland, yeah, cruise ship companies. So it's present. I think this is quite a well-known example that working conditions are a big issue in tourism. And it's, for example, also that there are cases, or sometimes it's happening, that there's employment, or if people want to unionize, they get fired or they are not employed. Or also, I think in Portugal, there are a lot of people working on temporary contracts also in tourism. Then, yeah, issues of no social security, then the payment, of course, is an issue. Also discrimination and inequality in the workplace. And then another example is, for example, land right issues in tourism. This is more on a more political level. It's nothing that one tour operator can change, but it's also an issue that you have actually to bear in mind which hotel am I working with, for example, are there land right issues connected to tourism development? And normally local communities have the right to be informed about their government's development plans. Also in tourism, they have to be consulted to participate in shaping these plans, but in reality, often this is not the case, and they're mainly vulnerable groups that should be involved in tourism development, but sometimes, or a lot of times, they aren't. And so there are also cases, for example, at Angkor Wat being a very touristic place, but there are a lot of evictions taking place from the temples. Yeah, in Mexico, local people are evicted for tourism development. Also, there were some cases now in Saudi Arabia where people got arrested, and I think one also got executed for protesting against the NEOM project, and now being developed in Saudi Arabia as a major tourism development also, and also in Tanzania, for example. So these are also quite recent cases. And I mean, a single tour operator cannot. Was it a question? No. Okay, no problem. So yeah, these are topics that it's not the responsibility of one single tour operator to end these cases, but it's an issue where, for example, tour operators can collaborate, think about which hotels am I collaborating with? Can I join forces with other tour operators also offering tours in the same region? Can we, for example, now we did a joint letter with, I think, 30 tour operators signing in to the Ugandan government with regard to the anti-homosexuality law. So you can try to find ways to address these issues because they are part of your business. And so human rights are really, yeah, they're crucial for sustainable development, and it's the basis for it. So they are very closely connected to the Sustainable Development Goals, or the other way around, the Sustainable Development Goals are closely connected to human rights. And actually, there are more than 90% of the SDGs are directly linked to human rights. I mean, they are the basis for it. And also going to the Travel Life criteria, I think most of you are in the process of the Travel Life certification. They were also showing.
Sorry, Jara, sorry to interrupt you. Do you mind to ask? There are some people are trying to enter in the meeting. Could you please, because now you have the, sorry. We have some, now I'm making just 1 minute. Yes.
Yeah, they admitted now.
Yes, right? Now they are going, so. Okay.
Yeah, you have to tell me if I need to do something because I don't see it.
No.
I can let them in.
Go ahead. It's okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, so the SDGs are also closely connected to Travel Life Standard, or the Travel Life Standard is referring also to the SDGs. So it's all connected somehow, right? It's all about social responsibility and sustainability. And this is the framework. It's not like what's sometimes happening is that businesses say, okay, we're doing a lot in environmental areas, so I have no time for social topics, but it's all interconnected, right? And we have to see how to bring it all together. And that's, I mean, the Roundtable Human Rights in Tourism, we are working mostly on human rights issues, and we want to support the industry with regard to their human rights due diligence. But still, I mean, TravelLife for accommodation is a member of the Roundtable, and we're discussing and we see how to bring all this together. That, I mean, of course, it's a lot of effort also for businesses, but I think doing it in a strategic way can also help a business to get more responsible, sustainable, and also successful in the end. And this, yeah, I wanted to show this with these slides, that it's not like we're not saying that human rights is the only thing that you should do and that's the most important thing, but it's all interconnected. So with regard to the legal frameworks, I mean, I have the German view now, and I briefly wanted to share with you, because in Germany we now have a German Supply Chain Act. So it's legally binding that companies have to take care of their value chains. And this is in place since 2023, since January. And there are, like, the guiding principles on business and human rights were adopted to a national action plan. And I think also Portugal has a national action plan, or it's in development. So, and the national action plan was the basis for the law. And this is also the case, for example, in other countries like the Modern Slavery Act in the UK, or in France, they have a law in Australia. So there's a lot of action in the moment to get more regulation with regard to human rights due diligence worldwide. So Thailand has a national action plan, and there are more countries to come. So it's something that is also becoming more regulated for businesses. And I think this is important to have in mind. And also now on EU level, there's a discussion to get a CSR directive, which will be even stronger than the German one. So there will be some development that makes it more pressing also for businesses to think about human rights in the value chain, even though, like, it's for bigger companies in the first time at the moment. And I really want to break it down, what companies can do, and what does it really mean for a tourism company. I mean, this is quite theoretic in the beginning, and it's a big topic, and a lot of people or employees say, okay, what can I really do? I'm just working in a company, and this is way too big to do anything. And so we're trying to bring it to the bottom. And this is also, I think, what the TravelLife certification does, because it's really, there are a lot of connections. So to respect human rights as a tour operator, we follow the 5 action fields of the UN Guiding Principle for Business and Human Rights. The TravelLife certification, for example, they refer to a lot of different international standards. And for example, the OECD guidelines and the ILO guidelines, they are both referring to the UN Guiding Principles on Human Rights. So it's also integrated in the TravelLife certification, actually. Also, when you have a look at the criteria, if you take, for example, the fair business practices or labor practices in human rights, community relations, and actually the whole section of supply chain management, this is also referring to the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. This is all about how can I make sure that human rights or social aspects are respected within my value chain. So I've taken this overview because I want to show you it's all, I mean, going through this certification also shows that you're already doing something in the field. It's not that businesses start from zero. Everyone is doing something, and you have to check, how can I address these issues maybe in a strategic way. And I wanted to show you some of the criteria from the Travel Life certification that really are human rights due diligence. It's already there. If you work on these criteria, this has to do with human rights due diligence. So it's about working relations, minimum salary, child labor, sick leaves. You should train personnel also regarding human rights risk issues. You should train your partner agencies, and it should be like you should integrate great clauses in contracts regarding child protection, minimum wage, existence of formal contracts, right to overtime being paid, etc. So this is exactly what the UN Guiding Principles say as well. And also with the local representatives, the tour leaders, the guides, it's all about paying them correctly, and they should be trained. And I mean, they have such an important role also for acting sustainable in the destination and bringing further what the tour company in Europe is doing. If they are not well trained and they do not know about child rights issues, etc., then it's a big risk also. So for us, this is really also important to have connections to the destinations and see what's the impact in the destination of a tourism product. So the framework of the UN Guiding Principles is the 5 action fields, and this looks very theoretic now. I'm not going into detail, but it's all about at the first step, you need a strategy. I mean, you have to integrate this in your company, in every department, and not only doing projects here and there, and it's not connected to your operations. So it should be a strategy how your business wants to address social issues and human rights issues. And the first step actually is to know your value chain and to assess your risks. And this is very individual. It's not something that you can do by doing a questionnaire and clicking, but it's all, it's a process. And depending on your product and where you're offering tours to, this can be very, it's very individual. And then integration means you need to find the right measures to mitigate your risks that you find in your risk analysis. And you should, or you need to have any framework for remedy, or allow people to address if their rights are violated. And this is something very complex, actually. We did an analysis last year in the tourism sector, how companies make sure that their stakeholders can address human rights violations if there are any. And it's non-existent. I mean, some companies, they have an email address, but it does not make sure that everyone can reach this email address. And also there are no processes in place. What's happening if a complaint comes in? How is it handled? And I mean, if you have any examples for this, how you handle this in your operations, we would be really thankful to discuss this further also, because it's such a big topic, and we think it's very important, and we are really interested how companies are on this way, and we also really would like to support. But at the moment, yeah, it's just about collecting data and see if there are any good practices, maybe also from other sectors, how they could handle it. But yeah, as said, the value chain in tourism is so small scale, and there are so many informal people working in tourism and being part of the product. So it's very different, for example, from a textile factory where we have one big factory and everything is happening there. Yeah, so if you have any ideas, we would be really happy to discuss this. And then it's about reporting. So you should report your progress and the process you're starting. And it's all about integrating measures and then seeing if it's working or if you have to adapt something and report on it. And for the first action field, for the survey or the assessment of the risks, we have developed some tools that are made for tourism companies, and I would like to also introduce it to you, of course. So with regard to the risks, it's important to also know the country risks with regard to human rights. So it's a very abstract level of risk analysis in the first time, of course, but yeah, it's very important to see what's happening in a country where I offer tours to, because actually you're responsible for your product, and it's not about only your business, but it's also, yeah, dependent on the country risk or topics that are in a country, because you're then part of it. You're sending people to a country. So the human rights risks in a business context, they depend very much on the general human rights situation in a particular country. And it's not only on the sector or specific business activity. And only if you're aware of of special risks in a country, you can effectively take measures and find appropriate measures, and also focus on topics maybe that are relevant in a country. And then, of course, you need to address also your value chain and the risks that are in your business. It's not about all risks that are out there, but you have to find your individual risks. And this is also a process. And it's, as I said, it's very individual. And for both of these part of a risk analysis, we develop tools. And of course, there are always measures that you can implement yourself in your company, which are maybe low-hanging fruits. And maybe there are already processes in the company that you can adapt. And then there are other topics that need collaboration with other stakeholders. And this is, I wanted to show with this slide because we offered support on both levels. So what we did is, for example, we just launched a destination risk map. It can be found on our website. It's a free online tool. And we took indicators, 13 indicators that are available, internationally recognized indicators on human rights topics. And we calculated them and collected them and calculated it to an overall score, how we call it. And the score is subcategorized in 5 color gradations. Paolo has a comment or a question.
It is a question. Are people free to use this link on their websites or any other ways for the destination risk map?
Yes, I mean, what we want to reach is that many people use it, so feel free to use the link also and link to our website to the tool. Yes, of course.
Okay, because most agencies in Portugal they abide by the law, and the law implicates that they will have to keep their clients informed on a number of things. And we tend to use a portal which belongs to the government with a lot of indications about councils to different destinations. In any case, I have to say that to my knowledge, that portal has a lot of indications about health risks and safety risks and all sorts of risks, but not really human rights risks. I can't recall. I might be wrong, but I can't recall seeing any human rights risks pointed out in. They just talk about safety, health, and this kind of risks, and which is very useful. But if they are free to use this, and not only to use the map, but also to use the link, so they can allow their clients to go through it if they want, of course. That's nice.
Yeah, I mean, actually, this map was not developed for the travelers, but for companies. So, but of course, everyone can have a look at it and use it. But it wants to show more than that. Like, we're not saying if there's a dark red country, you should not go there, or don't offer tours to this country. We just want to say, if this is dark red, this means that there are human rights risks. And then you can also click on the country, you get more information on the indices that we used. So if you see that the Child Rights Index has a very low performance, so you see that child rights are an issue in this country, and you can check maybe with NGOs, with your network, with your local agency, how to tackle these risks in your value chain, if you think this is relevant for your value chain. So this is how the map works. It's not about you shouldn't go there, but it's the higher the risks are in a country, the higher you should, or the more you need to think about your value chain with regard to this risk. Rita has also a comment.
Thank you. And you also could see what kind of risks you are higher in per each country when you click on which country?
Yes and no. So yes, it's in general, but we show, maybe I can totally share, I have to check if I can manage. I can go on the tool online, I think. Let me just go to the website. Yeah, I think you see the map now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you click, for example, on, we do not have at for the moment. Yes.
Jara, I think that you need to stop sharing this and start sharing the. Yes. Okay. Now it's fine.
You see it?
Yeah. Now we see it. Yes.
Yeah.
So at the moment, we have 36 destinations that are covered in this tool. We have not covered yet all destinations because we were updating the data, and yeah, our resources are limited. So we started with destinations that are relevant for European tour operators. And we took the data from the German Travel Association. So I think Portugal is not on there.
But Spain is. Yeah.
Yeah, so if we go to Spain, you can click on the country and you see, firstly, you see the overall score, then you see a short explanation, and then you click on more and you see you're going to the country's site, And then you see all the indexes
okay.
and the results in the indices.
Okay.
So it does not say that it's very good in the Global Rights Index, but you can go then on the Global Rights Index and get more information. And you see, okay, it's repeated violations of rights, but it's quite well. I mean, it's,
Okay.
yeah. And it's meant to be a very first start in a risk analysis and a very broad overview. So it should help to get an access to this kind of country risks. And I mean, it shows you the 13 indicators in one map, basically, how the performance is. But it's not an in detail tool. So,
Okay.
yeah.
After all, maybe it's not such a good idea to offer this to the travelers. I wonder.
I mean, yeah, I think you need some explanation to it, right? Because you still need to check the indices. And as part of a risk analysis of a company, that's what you need to do, actually. I mean, in the German law, it says you should do a risk analysis once a year for destinations that you think have risks or that are relevant for you. And then this could be a good starting point. It's not a proper risk analysis then, but you have to go further. But yeah, I mean, I think the other maps, at the moment, there are a lot of maps being distributed and developed. For example, with health issues also, or risks for travelers. But I think all of these maps are basically for companies and not for the traveler itself. Because we as Roundtable, we say boycott is the very last option, but normally it's not about where to go, but how to offer tours to a country. Yeah.
So why all the countries in white is just simply because you haven't yet data to input on it? Is that the reason? I'm asking why some countries are in white. So there are no issues, or it just didn't have the time to
Yes, I mean, there are issues everywhere in the world. We got this database from Der Touristik, actually, who did a project on it, and we took this data, but the data is from 2018, and what we did is we updated the data, but we had no time to update everything until now, so we will go on step by step and also ask our members, for example, which countries are missing for them, what is relevant for them, and then we will go on updating this data. So the map will grow, but no, it does not mean that there are no issues at all. That's, yeah. I mean, there are issues everywhere, and there's higher risks and lower risks, but yeah. So these are just shortly showing you the indices that we used. These are internationally acknowledged sources, and we just collected the data and summarized it to this overall view. Yeah, and then there are short descriptions also from the US Department of State on the human rights situation and the political frames. So this is also integrated in the country sites. And then on the other level, shortly showing you, but I showed you online, so I don't have to tell you again. I think, I mean, we scaled the indices to 1 to 100 scale, and then we developed this color scaling, and we give some recommendations. Or it's not really a warning, but shows you how that you have to take more caution, of course, in a country where the overall score is very low. And then what we also did is, also I think already in 2018, we developed what we call a value chain risk analysis. This is also integrated in the website. We call it Get Started tool, where you can click through your value chain. And then you see so-called risk cards with issues that can appear, human rights risks that can appear within this value chain element. And this is also a very first start for any interested tour operator or company to see what kind of risks actually can happen or are there in my value chain. Yeah, you see, you can click on learn more, and then you see a description, and you see cases like case studies, articles, news, also studies, sometimes a video that we collected, and we updated it also regularly to see what's actually happening in the world. And then also there's a section take action. So we introduce first steps that a tour operator can take to tackle this issue or to think about what measures can I integrate in my business.
Any chance to show an example? Since you are online, I mean.
Yes, I can.
If you could zoom in into the Mediterranean area, for instance, it would be interesting to.
No, this is not connected to the map actually.
Oh,
But,
okay.
Wait. Do you see my screen now?
Now we see your mouse going around. Yeah.
But you see the website now?
We see the website.
In that part of the risk, the map of the risk.
Okay, now
Yes.
you are on the website, yes.
Okay, so if you go to Get Started tool, then you see Analyze Risk Country Specific. This is the risk map. And if you see Analyze Risks Value Chain, if you click here, then you see this value chain. And then you can click, for example, on accommodation and lodging. And you will see the risk cards. So this is not connected to any destination, but this is just the value chain and risks in general that can appear with regard to lodging. And then, for example, you go on children's rights, and here you have red and orange. This is, we did this because there's a methodology of severity and leverage, and this is already preset that you don't have to think about it. But if it's red, it's a very severe risk, and then orange is not that severe. It's also a risk, but it's not that urgent, maybe. So if you go on children's rights, for example, in lodging, what's the issue with children's rights, or what are risks for children's? And then you have a description. So it's about child labor, it's about sexual exploitation, it's about migrant workers and being away from the parents. So these are all risks that can appear. And then here, for example, we have a link to the to a study from ECPAT International that you can click through, or we have a case study, or not a case study, but a study from UNICEF about children in the hotel industry in Mexico. So we just try to find examples and links and resources for this issue. And then if you go further, you have take action, for example, what you could do with regard to policy and process, with regard to supplier assessment, for example, training and capacity building. And and then you have the link to the country-specific risks if you want to go on. And this you have for a lot of topics that you can find within one element in the value chain. So I think most of the companies or of our members use it to click through and think about it and get an access to, okay, what actually are risks with regard to activities and or, for example, volunteering, or what are risks with regard to food and beverage, restaurants. And you also can click on select, and then you can print it out later. You have like a shopping basket here on the right side. So it's a very basic tool actually, but there's a lot of information in it. So you're very welcome to try it out and use it. And if there are any questions, feel free also to get in contact. So what we also did, and this is also part of the Get Started tool, but this is a more in-depth analysis or helping you to really assess impacts in a destination. If you see you have a main destination, for example, and you realized in your risk analysis or in the first process that there are some issues, it's a way to do an in-depth human rights risk assessment. And we did an assessment in Thailand and Myanmar in 2019, actually. The report was then published in 2020, where we really went to these countries, and actually it was 2 human rights impact assessment that we did, because we did it in collaboration with our members. And the bigger members, like the bigger companies, said, okay, for us, Thailand is relevant. We have beach holiday and we have business travel going there. And in Myanmar, it was more the specialized smaller companies that offered a round trip in Myanmar. So we really assessed the impacts going there and talking to a lot of stakeholders. And this is also following a methodology that is acknowledged internationally. And it's not about tourism, but like in mining sectors, etc. If you're going to a new country, you have to assess your human rights impacts. And we did this for tourism. And in the report, you find the findings of this assessment, and you also find recommendations for tour operators, but also for the roundtable, how to follow up and what measures are needed, or what topics were found with regard to different, like with regard to workers' rights or children's rights, etc. So I think it's quite interesting to read through it. Also, of course, the situation has changed a lot since then. There was COVID, and then in Myanmar, the taking over of the military regime, or so the situation is different now. But for an overview how this could work as a company, and this is really something that needs a lot of resources and also is expensive. So it's nothing that a tour operator just does once a year or etc. But it's something to really look in detail. How does the product, the tour that I offer, impact the people? And this is because, this is why we collaborated and offered this as a pilot project for tour operators together with our members. And the online tool that was followed by this assessment is online. So you see it's 5 phases, and it's really a step-by-step guideline how to, if you want to do an impact assessment, how can I prepare this? What is needed to think about? How can I make sure that the people that I'm talking to about human rights issues really can speak openly without being in danger? Or how can I approach different stakeholder groups, for example, vulnerable groups? How can I set up a plan in the country where I want to go to? How can I, or what do I need? I need a translator, etc. So it's really a step-by-step approach. And there are also questionnaires on different human rights issues, for example, on children's rights, on workers' rights, with a lot of very subtle questions. Because if you're talking to someone working in a hotel and you ask about what about child labor in your hotel, he wouldn't tell you anything, of course. So it's more about asking questions like how is your daily work structured? Yeah, are your children going to school? So it's a lot of very small questions, but in the end, they help you, that people talk to you about also topics with regard to human rights. And you find all these questionnaires in this tool on the website. And so this also could help you if you're not planning a human rights impact assessment as a whole, but if you're, for example, doing supplier visits or are in contact with your suppliers, and you could maybe integrate 3 or 4 questions with regard to human rights. So this is also as a support. I hope it's clear what I mean, but it's not okay. Now I'm back, I think. I don't know what happened, but I was out.
Yes,
Sorry.
welcome back.
Do you
Okay.
see my screen still? No.
Now, yes, I return to you. Now you can share. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Sorry for this. Don't know what happened. Okay. So what we developed in the last year is an online guideline on responsible tourism in oppressive regimes. This is something that was developed in a working group with our members on, what can I do if I offer tours to countries that are not democratic or an oppressive regime? I mean, there are so many different wordings for states with difficult human rights situations. And it's a guideline. It's about to ask the right questions and to make responsible decisions, actually. So it's what we want to reach with it is that tour operators think about how can I offer tours in countries that difficult human rights situations, or where it's not clear where my money goes to, but how can I try to still support the local people and not the regime? And it's yeah, it's an online guideline because we want to grow it and to put in more inputs and also maybe best practice examples. Yeah, so very happy also to receive feedback from you if this is supportive and if you're having any examples from your destinations, for example. Paulo has a question.
Yeah, this is all available from your site, from the free access.
Yes. Yeah, it's also on the website. It's under implementation guidelines. So this is one of the implementation guidelines that we offer, and this one is an online guideline, and you can also print it as PDF, of course. Yeah. And what we also do is, I mean, once a year we have an online symposium, or actually in the last year it was online. Normally it's a physical event. So we plan this year in November to have a symposium in Berlin. You can watch the online symposiums that we had on our website as well, or on YouTube. They are events with one topic. In the last year it was climate change and human rights, with a lot of input from experts and I think quite good discussions. We have a webinar series, so we're offering webinars. These are 1 hour webinars, also open for everyone in the tourism sector. They are all recorded, so you find a lot of webinars already also on our website or on the YouTube channel. And we also always wanted to, yeah, it's about different aspects of human rights. So it's about human rights communication. How can I communicate topics to my customers, for example? It's about child rights in tourism. So very different topics. Tackling racism in the tourism value chain was one topic. And we also always invite one expert and one practitioner. So it's a very practical setup that we try to have. So if you want to get informed, you can sign up to our newsletter. So you get information about upcoming webinars or events. And sometimes we're doing workshops, etc. And of course, we have a resource center on our website as well, where you find different studies, articles, tools, also websites, where you can filter according to human rights topics or different issues that you're interested in. And we are regularly updating the resource center. And then, of course, our implementation guidelines are there. There's a general one, and then there is one, for example, on how to set up contracts with transport in destinations, how to make sure that drivers are paid well, etc. What can you do? These were all developed with our members because they were demanding some support in this field. Yeah, and what we are currently developing is online training modules for tourism companies on a paid basis. So everything on our website is actually available for free, but now we're working on a bit more in-depth trainings for tourism companies on human rights due diligence. These are currently developed, so they are not ready yet, but if you're interested, we are very happy to get in touch and discuss further. So we are offering open courses where everyone just can register on a fixed date, or we are offering also for companies specific courses. Yeah, I mean, this is from another setting. I don't know if you have your mobile phones with the QR code, but you can just register for our newsletter on our website as well if you're interested. It's just for informing about events like webinars, for the training development, etc., for the symposium. So it's not a regular newsletter, but just a news when we're developing something new. And with this, I also would like to end the presentation, and I'm very open for discussion if there are any questions or remarks. I'm very happy to get your feedback.
I have one question. Will you be publishing in your newsletter about these courses? Because that sounds quite interesting.
Yes, I mean, we're planning if they're ready, then we're, of course.
Do you have any idea when that would be?
Like we're in the development now, and we're hoping to have them ready for September. So, like, yeah, like they're basis courses. It's maybe 4 sessions, and yeah.
All right, thank you.
Maybe I have a question to all of you who are listening, because I don't know exactly about. I mean, Travel Life for Accommodation is a member of the Roundtable, but not Travel Life for tour operators. But we're in like we're talking to them. So within the process, have you ever heard about the Roundtable Human Rights in Tourism, or is it something totally new to you? Oh, I don't know if all of you are in the same level of certification already, or how this is actually.
Okay, I think that the best question maybe, well, I can respond one thing. They are all in different levels of the certification process. Okay, some more level than others. As far as if they know about the Roundtable Human Rights for Tourism, I think that the best possible question is that if anyone knows, raise the hand.
Or maybe write in the chat.
Except us, isn't it, Paul?
Okay, that's very surprising. So that the good news, Jara, is that now there are a lot more people who know about Roundtable Human Rights for Tourism than 1.5 hours ago.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, just an invitation. I mean, everything that we develop is there for the tourism industry. So it's really good to reach out to more tourism companies. And I mean, we're a small initiative, but I think we're trying to really develop useful tools for also smaller tourism companies and to make it useful.
But that's thing. Well, I've known it for quite a while now, and I'm quite happy that all these people now know about it as well, because it's a very valid initiative. It's used, and I know a lot of tour operators and travel agencies throughout Europe who are very much aware, and even the foreign travel agents associations as well. And APAP knows about it as well, although obviously that APAP is not a member yet. But I know that ANVR, the Dutch Travel Agents Association, is a member. APTA, the British one, is also a member. And who knows? Right now we are still recovering from a difficult period. But hopefully in the near future, maybe there is a way to become members. And but on an individual basis, it's good to know that a lot more people know, and I do believe that the destination risk map it's going to be increasingly interesting. You know, it still needs to grow, and we need to find if it has all the destinations most of the tour operators and travel agents in Portugal work with. So in the end, it's very positive. But Rita, it's up to you now to.
Yes, and it's a good opportunity. No, thank you very much, Jara, for your time and your explanation. And I think that's quite, now we have a new interesting organization to find, and you are also all of you to invite to know more, and feel free to use these shadows and to all of this part, and also these courses. Thank you very much. I don't know if you have any questions more.
I guess there is one on the chat. Ricardo, I don't know if you want to talk or not. You can. If you have any difficulties with the microphone, I can read your question for you.
Jara, are you reading this?
Yes, I'm reading
Okay.
the comment. Yeah, I mean, that's the point. You do not have the access to all of the stakeholders in the value chain because it's so vast and small scale. But what you can do exactly is to have at least your direct partner in the destination and sensitize them about human rights issues, and also ask them about their, I mean, they know best what's the issue in the destination, and they have the context with the other more intermediaries and the suppliers, and this is where you have your leverage. And I mean, of course, it's limited, but it's the first step. And then if the agency in the destination, your direct intermediary, is sensitized and knows about issues, for example, with regard to child rights and how to tackle issues, or where to report if there's something, or to train their tour guides, for example, then that's the first step, and then it's going further. I mean, it's a process. It's never ending. But I think still, I mean, it's the responsibility for you as a European tour operator to have it in mind, and to check what are my highest risks and where do I have my highest leverage. And this is something that has to be strategic, and you have to think about it when offering new products, for example, and for how to operate in the destination. But yeah, of course, you're not cannot reach all of the suppliers in the value chain.
This is an ongoing question. Oh, sorry, Peter. Yeah, and I understand what Ricardo says, because this is an ongoing question for everyone here trying to get the Travel Life certification. Because we know that we are asked, everyone is asked to try to get to know and to try to impose somehow some contractual clauses and demanding everything from their suppliers. But these suppliers, they have other suppliers, as Ricardo well said, and this one, so it's a kind of infinite chain of. But the good thing is that sustainability in general, and human rights in particular, they work like this. You need to ask, your immediate supplier, and then somehow live and motivate him to ask, his supplier, and so on and so on, and then in the end it will get to the guy who actually contracts the service. So it will take a lot of time. We all know that, but we need to do it, because in the end of the day, there's going to be an effect. But I fully agree with Ricardo. It's frustrating. No doubt about that. But we gotta do it, and we will find ways of doing it. Rita, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Do you know, Jara, how is the scenario at German with the suppliers, and also with this question of this pressure? Or is there's a lot of companies that already have in these contracts these questions?
I would say it's not the majority. It's just starting. I mean, there are some committed tourism companies in Germany, and with regard to the new supply chain law, this is also only at the moment applicant to companies with more than 3,000 employees. And in tourism, I mean, these are exactly 3 companies in Germany. So it's not applicant to the majority of tourism companies, but still it's a momentum, because it's starting that also the small and medium-sized tour operators, I mean, it's higher on the agenda also for politics. And we really see that they are asking more and they are thinking about it more. And I think, yeah, I mean, our members, they have some clauses in their contracts, but it's not about, I think it's about finding out about your value chain and what's the relevance for you. And then you start with the most pressing issues for your company, because you cannot tackle all of the issues. And then, I mean, start with the ones that you already know, maybe, or where you have connections to, or, you know, maybe civil society organizations working in this area and connect. Or you have like in this, your forum now, I mean, maybe you have the same destinations or working with similar, or maybe also the same agencies. And then you have a higher leverage. You can join and try to bring in clauses together, because then the agency is maybe more under pressure than if one tour operator says, okay, could you please think about child rights? And I think what's also, I mean, the Travel Life certification is getting more, or GSTC criteria is getting more public also in destinations and for agencies, I think. So it's maybe also a way for them to get certified and get more access to the market in Europe, as the regulations are growing in the future.
It's a process.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So if there are more questions, any more questions, just thank you very much. Thank you, Jara. Muito obrigada a todos e todas pela vossa presença, e vamos encontrando por aqui. Se alguma questão adicional que tenham, depois também à semelhança de outras alturas, também podem enviar depois aqui outras questões posteriormente. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Jara.
Thank you.
Let's keep in touch.
Bye bye.
You're welcome.
Temos aqui a Sandra.
Okay, hold on.
Sandra. Sim. Sandra?
Eu?
Sim.
Sandra.
Estava aqui com uma...
Não, estava-me a despedir da Jara. I was just saying goodbye.
no ar. Okay.
Sorry.
Goodbye.
Okay.
Thank you.
No,
Bye-bye.
it's
Thanks.
okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.